Greetings, fellow adventurers. This is Daisy Joy at Adventure Acres Homestead here in northwest rural Iowa, actually doing a video for the first time in forever. Okay, so the first question that most people have been asking me over the summer is, where did you go? Why haven't you been posting very much on social media? I haven't really posted a lot on YouTube or on my Facebook page. I'd also been working on setting up my website earlier this year and doing a lot of the kind of grunt work to set up my page, and everything just kind of stopped. I'll get to the reason why I haven't been posting on social media all that much, but first I wanted to share a little bit about what we have been doing here at the homestead this summer. A lot of our planter system has been about experimentation. We're kind of working out the kinks and realizing what works and what doesn't work, and trying to really understand how to make it logistically and sustainably useful. At the very beginning of the summer, I was excited to have Mr. Adventure add an extension onto our existing planter system. We have sort of a raised bed planter container garden combo. It's specifically designed for us in mind because we're very tall people, and gardening at ground level can be somewhat prohibitive at times. So my husband set up this planter system last year, and we had a lot of really great success with it. It was really easy to keep the weeds down. It is very experimental right now. We're trying to figure out what works best for us and to understand better what it is that we need to really streamline the process of gardening and make it as successful as possible, especially considering my special challenges. Last year we had a really great pepper crop. We harvested a lot, all of our peppers, and processed them and had them in the freezer well into winter. For such a small space, we really had a pretty high level of productivity, and part of that was because of the way that we conditioned the soil, just the companion planting. It was a really successful model. Also, it was a pretty dry year. Mr. Adventure crafted this new extension of our garden bed so that it was deeper and that we could add more soil, and hopefully it would retain better moisture levels. And we have had a lot of really great success this year with our tomatoes. Expanding on our experience from last year, we decided to use some landscaping fabric to cover the soil this year, and we also mulch on top just to kind of provide an extra layer of insulation. With the soil covered as it is, it has been more successful in retaining the moisture from the rain that we've gotten, and it also has been a little easier to keep the weeds down. It has been a fairly dry year this year, and just kind of providing that extra layer of protection on the surface has really been helpful. I did a lot more companion planting this year just to kind of experiment with that. I tried different types of flowers and different kinds of plants, and it has been really interesting to kind of document and take logs of the different pollinators that have come to visit our little garden area. It's been a really fun experiment to see which plants seem to attract better beneficial pollinators and all the interesting insects that we've had. One thing that I found that was really interesting is that this year has been really bad for Japanese beetles. They did a lot of damage to a variety of plants just everywhere. Yep, that's called a Japanese beetle. They're a pest, but they're very pretty, aren't they?
Yeah, they're very pretty.
It's been a really rough year for Japanese beetles, and this plant was pretty much devoid of leaves. They were very lacy and there wasn't very much of them left, but I am glad to see that it's kind of sprouting back. It's throwing off some new leaves, and hopefully it will give the tree enough energy to survive another year. I was interested to see that some of the companion plants that I put in my garden were a really terrific diversion, and that the Japanese beetles were more focused on some of the companion plants than on the actual garden. So that was really kind of a helpful little side note that, and I love the idea of really understanding how the mechanisms of the garden work together and trying to kind of perfect it. I have taken a lot of notes with the system that we've done over the past 2 years that we've had it now, and hope to have kind of a good idea on a model for a larger garden setup that we're looking into establishing. When I plant my garden, I kind of like to choose things that I'm not going to find at the local grocery store. I want the more colorful varieties of tomato. I want peppers with unique flavor. My husband is what I would define as a foodie, and so he really does really amazing things with different flavors, and so I really like having our own varieties that we can't find in the store. It's really great to be able to grow them here, and that's kind of what I like about our general homesteading setup. Is it's not that we're trying to make tons of money on growing our produce or not going to farmers market, but we're growing things that we wouldn't be able to get at the grocery store. This is a unique product of our efforts that we get to enjoy. This has seriously been a project that has been years in the making. Mr. Adventure has invested many, many hours in tree maintenance here at the farm, and we have had so many trees that we have pulled out of the pine tree side of the lane. And last year he did an effort where he cut back a lot of the branches, the lower branches, to really prune up and polish the lane. And it turned out to be very helpful, because we had that really massive blizzard that came through in February, and if he hadn't gone through and cleared out all of that area and allowed the snow to have somewhere to go, it would have been even deeper. And and it was already so deep. Oh, everybody had to navigate these massive walls of snow to do the chores. It was just madness. Our area got a lot of snow, but the snow at our place was especially problematic because the way that the lane is set up, the way that the windbreak is set up, it creates this corridor of snow accumulation right along our exit. So that really does need to be addressed, and that's one of the things that we're really looking into. Obviously, setting up a new windbreak is not going to happen overnight. It's not something we can do this year. However, he can work to kind of open that bottleneck up a little along the lane, and he has been working so hard. It also looks really nice. It's a lot more polished, and it's a lot easier to get into all those bottom branches out of the way. He can easily mow along the lane. He can get in there with the weed whacker and just take out any volunteers that show up, instead of trying to wrangle his way through all the branches and trying to kind of chisel out the trees when they get big enough to be problematic. It's a game changer, and it's going to give us so much more time to do other things here on the homestead without him having to do battle with the constant influx of volunteers underneath the pine trees. Another thing that my husband has been working on has been doing some upgrades. He put in new windows, he put in a new door on the porch, he did a lot of preparations for another project that was going on. He did a major project with the foundation repair so that it's all sealed up, and wow, did that make such a difference during this super cold winter that we had at the beginning of this year. It has been amazing that he was able to seal up that floor and keep all of those cold gusts from coming in under the floor. The floor was so much warmer this year when it was winter, and we're talking about negative 54, 56 degree wind chills, and the floor was relatively decent to walk across, whereas in the previous year in the winter the floor was so cold you've practically felt icicles under your feet. I did a big project on our kitchen area. I set up new storage. One of the big things that we work for here at the homestead is to make things easier to do. There isn't a lot of storage that is easy to access. I don't know if any of you have read the book Cheaper by the Dozen, but I really enjoy that book for a variety of reasons. But the biggest reason that I love that book is because it talks about efficiency so that you have more time to do other things and more energy and more resources. It just makes sense to make things more efficient. And so that's one of the things that I worked on, was setting up our kitchen in a way that was more efficient. Mr. Adventure and I did some troubleshooting. We kind of looked over, okay, what do we need here in the kitchen? Just because it's set up how it always has been set up doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be the best use of the space. Back when my husband and I were teenagers, we spent a lot of time hanging out in this nook. Our sisters and we would sit here and we would have pizza, and it was kind of our congregation spot where we'd sit and visit, and I would sit there in the little nook and watch my husband make grilled cheese sandwiches. Of course, he was only 14 at the time. This little corner of the kitchen is tied to a lot of nostalgia. And I think, you know, knowing that about myself, that's part of the reason why I have really dragged my feet about changing it. Back when there was a table, there were so many things that didn't have a home that belonged in the kitchen, and they would always end up on the table. We removed the table from the little nook area and set up a whole wall of cubby storage. The cube storage is being built by my husband in the living room, and I kind of took a moment to feel out the space and kind of have some ideas for how to set it up. So it's going to be interesting. It'll be very different, but that's kind of what we're going for. We don't want the same old thing, the same old clutter hub that it's been the whole time that we lived here. The way that we have it set up now is all these things that were kind of just landing on the table because they didn't have a home now are stored in our cubbies. They look nice. It's very put together and organized, and on top of that we have more accessibility. There are these shelves that are back behind the area that we couldn't get to because the table was in the way. The first really noticeable thing is that I was able to use this counter here a lot more, but we have a lot of great storage here. We were able to honor the nostalgia aspect of sitting nook with the benches. We have all sorts of really great storage up there. We were able to get to the shelf up there because the table's not in the way, and we have just been able to keep everything so much tidier, and everything has a place and everything's in its place, and it's just been really great to have it so organized. Mr. Adventure and I have talked about different possibilities here. We discussed whether or not we wanted to continue on with the direction that we've been going with our flocks, or if we wanted to kind of explore different options. Since we are already talking about the possibility of putting in a windbreak, it would make sense to enclose it and use it as pasture grazing. A windbreak in and of itself is great, but a windbreak that you can also double as pasture area is even better. We are looking into rebuilding our flock. We have enjoyed a lot of really great eggs from our chicken flock, and just generally enjoying the chickens as a whole. We'd like to expand on that a little. We have, of course, our duck coop over here. We've got it set up very specifically for the ducks, but we're kind of looking into various options moving forward because there are such messy little birds. One of the things that I've been looking into is setting up more of a pasture area and also adding some geese to the flock. And we would be able to free range them a little better if they had the protection of the geese. If we had this set up as a winter coop, they could free range along the pasture paddocks and be protected, you know, really evaluating what we like best about having these flocks and how we are hoping to move forward with this, and kind of changing up our practices and making it more practical. So we've really enjoyed the setup. Of course, Janet Garman from Timber Creek has a new book that's out. Well, it still seems new to me, but it's new to me because I'm just now starting to get to it, about fiber animals, which I have really enjoyed reading. Amy Fuel has a new book out about chicken keeping. Anne, Farm Girl in the Making, has a book out about preserving the harvest, and I have had my nose stuck in that thing for a good chunk of the summer. It has been so cool to learn about different things. I have always felt a little intimidated when it comes to canning and different food preservation, and so I have made good use of my time this summer by really pouring into the research. Another thing that we've done this summer is that we have visited some other farm areas, and we have kind of had a chance to go over different models of land stewardship. One of my favorite homesteads here in the area is that we have this friend who has set up their paddock system in a very Joel Salatin sort of format, and we were able to go there this summer and just kind of see how it works in action. It is so neat to see how efficient the system is that they have set up. If you're not familiar with Joel Salatin, he is really very knowledgeable. He's internationally recognized for his natural farmsteading efficiency and really getting the best stewardship and production out of his land. So it was really, really neat to be able to see someone that I know implementing that here in the area, and I would love to do an interview with him. Okay, so another thing that has happened that makes my geeky little homesteader heart so happy is that I have a close friend who happened to buy the place next door. So it wasn't like a planned out thing, like, oh, the place next door is open, I'm totally gonna move in and you're gonna be next door. It was she was looking at places and she found it, and she knew that I was in the area, and she's just like, hey, do you know anything about this place? And I was like, that's next door to me. So I've been so excited about this. My friend speaks my language. I would have considered my friend already a homesteader, even though she was living in town. She was very much had the mindset of a homesteader. She had a really terrific terraced garden set up in her backyard. She was making her own salves. She makes soap. She has, all of these. She has a horse that she was boarding at a stable nearby, and so she would stop out and chat every once in a while when she was in the area. We really hit it off, and it was really kind of cool and fortuitous that the place that worked out best for their homestead, scenario is the one that's next door to us. So how fun is that? This is making me really giddy. I don't even know, maybe I shouldn't tell. But okay, so seriously, I'm seriously geeking out, because seriously, guys, she has a horse and she is training it to pull like a little horsey cart, and she is buying like a sleigh for her horse, and like she lives next door to me, which means that she could like, it's entirely possible that she could show up in her little horsey sleigh at my house like a Christmas postcard, and that is just like so fun and cool. And I just love her anyway because she's just a really nice person, and we like the same geeky things, and so it's been delightful. Honestly, I don't really know a lot of our neighbors here, and so it's been the neighbor that I do know is really nice and you know, and fun, but it's really fun to have a friend that's moving next door. Yeah, so I'm hoping that I can maybe do some videos with her. Maybe she would be up for that. I could ask. That'd be fun. One really interesting thing that I have been working on this summer is, I wouldn't say it's like a hush hush thing, but it's something that's still in the works, so I'm not going to tell you entirely about it. But I was approached by a few people. I'm like being all coy and secretive. I was approached by some people who were talking to me about a project. So it's a really exciting project, and it's something that I'm really passionate about on the national level. So it's such an interesting proposal, and I'm just really mulling it over. And of course, it has to do with homesteading, and specifically for those of us who have challenges with chronic illnesses and physical disabilities. I was asked if I wanted to be involved in setting something up. So I honestly, this is like the marriage of all the things that I'm passionate about and excited about. And the interesting thing is that, you know, talking about this idea and kind of sharing it in various homesteader circles, that the more people heard about it, the more excited they were. And there were a lot of people who are saying, yes, you need to do this. This would be so neat, and you would be the perfect person for it. So I was like, oh boy, this is, I'm excited about the idea. And I will have to share more about that later, not to be coy or like vague booking, but it's fun. It's really cool and it's fun, and I'm excited about it. It was especially interesting proposal because it has to do with homesteading and those of us who have particular challenges with homesteading, because it has been a very challenging summer as far as that goes. And there were a lot of other things that I have worked on this summer, but those are like the big headlines. Mr. Adventure has been doing far more things, and I would be excited to share about that. And so now we get back to why I haven't really posted very much. Unfortunately, last year I fell through a floor, which, yeah, that was last year. However, I've still been having some complications because of that. It turns out that when you fall through a floor, it can really mess up your nerves and your back and your hips and your arm and whatnot. There's been a good chunk of the summer that I have spent on virtual bed rest. Not because I was trying to relax, but because I had an issue with my hip that made it very difficult to stand or even sit. So and on top of that, I was having problems with my thyroid. You might notice I've lost some weight, and I have had a lot of interesting challenges this summer. I could do a whole video about the challenges that I've had this summer, but I decided this video would be better because here's the thing. I was down for the count for most of the summer, and that is not my focus. The focus that I have is on the stuff that I did get done and not the stuff that I didn't get done, because I have a lot of forward momentum. There is a temptation when it comes to having a chronic illness or disability to focus on everything that we can't do. And I think it's really important to acknowledge the things that we can do. It's so easy. It's so easy to fall into the mindset of naysaying and uh, being dismal about your prospects when you focus on everything that you can't do. I know this from experience. This is truth. Um, and it's very important to focus on the things that you can do. There were days when I did very little besides get up and go to the bathroom and just very, very basic, trying not to move the wrong way and just resting and trying to get better. And the truth is that a lot of people could look at that and say, oh, that's, how are you going to do anything when you're in your bed and you can't even move? You have to put so much effort into even shifting your position. But here's the thing. Even when I was laying in my bed with nothing to do, I was doing. I was planning. I was researching. I was looking into different possibilities. I was preparing myself for what was to come. There's a very defeatist mindset that can happen when you are in that sort of a situation. And the important thing is to keep looking forward, keep moving forward, keep your focus on what you want to do and where you want to go. Because if you're only looking at the obstacles, I'm not the kind of person that's going to look at the wall and say, oh, I can't do anything. I'm going to be looking for the grappling hook. I'm going to be trying to peek through the wall to the other side to see what I can do next. I am not going to stand on the side of the wall and just put my hands up in the air and say, oh, well, I guess so much for that. No, you don't get anything done that way. Honestly, right at the onset, it was it was very difficult. And my husband and I had a conversation about it, about how difficult it is when you feel like there's always something and it's, keeping you from what you want to do. You can look at it as being prohibitive, or you can look at it as a challenge to overcome. Either it can stop you in your tracks and you can lose your momentum and just come to a screeching halt, or you can use your brain and be creative and learn and research and understand what your challenges are so that you can overcome them. There are a lot of things that I was able to do this summer because I was not content to just sit and convalesce. It's important to have that forward momentum and to be looking forward and not miring yourself in your own doubt about your abilities. The specific challenges that I have are very problematic at times. That can either stop you or it can inspire you to find ways to work around them. Now, I married a professional troubleshooter, mind you. So when I started feeling very defeatist, he said, no. See, here's the thing. If you do it this way, then that takes that completely out of consideration. And then that would be doable. And I thought, oh my goodness, he's totally right. And, there are a lot of things that just require a little creativity. I think about my garden and how much I have learned about just gardening in general and how it's been easier to manage and how this is kind of a prototype for where we can head with our future garden area, and how this has been really born out of a place of inconvenience. I'm tall and it's hard for me to bend over and get things off of the ground. And so instead of saying, well, I guess I just can't garden, it's just not in the bag It's not in the cards for me to garden. I'm too broken and tall, and it's too hard. It's too hard to garden. I don't want to garden because it hurts my back. No, that's stupid. You look for a way to work around it, and it will inspire you to be creative. And not only has that been helpful for me, but it has been helpful for other people who have had challenges with it and have seen what we've done here and have said, you know what, I could garden too if we do it that way. That's really helpful. It was a very difficult summer because I was in a lot of pain and I had a lot of challenges, but I look back at how much we've gotten done this summer and I feel nothing but forward momentum. You know, it's going to be really hard. You know, it's a lot of stuff. I I don't see challenges that way, and I don't have the luxury of seeing them that way. Challenges are not prohibitive. They are fuel for my resolve. I have to work harder for it, but that means that I'm going to put everything that I have into it. This is not some fickle flirtation that I have with homesteading. It is a passion and it is a goal, and I have more resolve because it is challenging and not less. I may have more challenges, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's impossible for me to do. And so I am just grabbing my pitchfork and checking in. Ironically, a lot of the things that I have been challenged with this summer have nothing at all to do with multiple sclerosis. A lot of the challenges that I have been having are because I fell through that floor last year. Seriously. Turns out that can really mess up your hip when you have your leg really jet through floor. Really, since I've moved here, I've just come across so many of the common challenges that people have when they're trying to get off the ground with homesteading and really learn about the process. I had an infant, I had a chronic illness, I had a fairly serious injury. It's been an adventure, that's for sure. I'm glad to report, though, that I have been doing really a lot better. My hip has been behaving itself, and I've all the other issues that I've been having problems with have really abated, and so I'm really whipping out the smack on the stuff that needs to be done. It is fall, and so I am gearing up for harvest season. I'm trying to get things done so that we're ready for winter. It's an exciting time. I'm excited because I'm able and I'm strong. I have had to work on rebuilding my stamina over the past few weeks because I have had a lot less activity this summer, and so I've had to kind of ease myself back into it, but I'm still moving forward and I'm still here and I'm still alive and kicking and getting stuff done. We have a lot of really interesting things planned for this fall. Ironically, even with me on bed rest for a good chunk of the summer for a couple of months there, this may have been one of the most productive and accomplished summers that we've had here. We have gotten a lot of stuff done. Since I was sitting on my bed and not doing anything, I've gone through boxes of storage. I've gone and donated a lot of our things that we didn't need anymore. I have been streamlining our storage room. I have been knocking it out of the park, y'all. It's kind of ironic, but ultimately the reason that I have not been posting very much on social media is now because I was stagnating in a puddle of malaise and pain and woe. It's because I have been getting a lot of stuff done and I haven't had time to do videos. So how's that for ironic, I guess? So take that, injury. Now that we're in fall and there's a lot of stuff going on, I would like to kind of kick back into social media and share with you guys, because I've really missed being online. I've missed all the people here, and I've missed all of the, everything that's been going on. I'm really hoping to catch up with everybody, because I have a lot of really neat friends online who have been really encouraging me. I had people sending me cards and messages, and just been really keeping in touch with me, and I am just really touched that people have reached out to see how I was doing and everything. And I'm really looking forward to the season to come, and here we go. I hope everything is going really well with your adventures, and I hope to hear from you in the comments below. Hi everybody, I've missed you guys. Here we go again. I'm starting it back up. I am getting ready for quite the project. And as far as that project that's coming up, I'll be sure to keep you posted, because it's going to be fun. All right, so off to our next adventure. This is Daisy, signing off for now.